that lines up with what has already been covered here. Superman may have been spun as a win for the new DCU, but the numbers told a more complicated story. Box Office Mojo lists Superman with $618.7 million worldwide, including $354.2 million domestic and $264.5 million international. The international numbers makes up only 42.7% of its total gross, which is soft for a major superhero movie built around one of the most iconic and recognisable characters in the world. Yeah, the fact that it didn't even crack 300 million international, it's crazy. Really is. That is crazy. The bigger the problem is that Superman did not perform like a major reset for the DC brand. Man of Steel made $670.1 million worldwide back in 2013, with $379.1 million coming from international markets. Adjusted for today's dollars, that puts Zack Snyder's Superman movie far ahead of Gunn's reboot at nearly $1 billion. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice made even more, with Box Office Mojo listing $874.3 million worldwide. Adjusted for inflation, that would be well over $1.2 billion today. That's crazy. Inflation is out of control. BVS was 10 years ago, that is. Inflation is out of control. So while James Gunn's Superman cleared $600 million, it still made less than Man of Steel in raw dollars, and far less when inflation is considered. More important, it brought in less ticket sales, which means fewer fans went to see it. I mean, I don't know how significant bringing in like the inflation is. I don't know how much that matters. I mean, the point is that it wasn't a particularly strong start to this new universe. It wasn't a particularly strong reset, and it definitely didn't do what it needed to do. The issue was never only whether Superman could avoid disaster. The issue was whether it could relaunch DC as a dominant theatrical brand. Variety's wording is important because it removes some of the spin. Promising beginning is not the same thing as a massive win. Not a home run is not the kind of language you want attached to the first official movie in a new cinematic universe. This also follows the out reports about Superman not being financially successful amid a reported soaring budget and break-even concerns. The movie had to do more than simply survive. It had to prove the new DCU could compete at the highest level. Following its release, Gunn also billed Peacemaker Season 2 as a direct sequel, which ended up losing nearly half its audience and has essentially been cancelled by HBO. I mean, I think we should also acknowledge the fact that he's just like not bringing in Batman. I mean, he absolutely had some big plans before Superman actually came out. Like, I don't even know how likely it is that we're getting that Brave and the Bold movie. I mean, I think it's being written by the writer of The Flash, so that should be interesting. I mean, The Flash didn't particularly bother me, but I found it somewhat disappointing, especially the fact that it was adapting the Flashpoint storyline. I love the Flashpoint storyline, so I think in that regard it was somewhat disappointing. I think quite a few things could have been done better, but we know like nothing about The Brave and the Bold. All we know is that it's being written by the writer of The Flash. That's all we know. That's all we have. So, I mean, that might not even happen. I mean, DC have had a bad track record, especially with the previous universe, with Zack Snyder's universe. I mean, about every year we would get like a new slate with like 10 films on it, and then none of them would ever happen. I mean, under Zack Snyder, we were supposed to get a Cyborg movie, a Flash movie, Justice League was supposed to be a trilogy. That never happened, you know. So, I mean, that Brave and the Bold movie might never happen. I think there's a genuine chance that just doesn't happen, and that just falls apart. Variety says there is a lot riding on Supergirl, and that is exactly the point. If Superman was only a promising start, then Supergirl has to show the DCU can expand beyond Gunn's first movie and bring in a larger audience. Supergirl does not have Superman's built-in box office ceiling, and the movie is already facing questions about its budget, its tone, and whether general audiences are interested in this version. Superman was supposed to be the clean relaunch. Instead, even Variety is now framing it as a decent start but not a true breakout. For Gunn and Safran, that puts the pressure on Supergirl to deliver. DC does not need another movie that can be spun as promising. It needs a real hit. Yeah, I mean, I think you could absolutely make $1 billion with a Superman movie. I think you absolutely could. I think if you were to bring in like Brainiac, or you were to give Lex Luthor his suit from from the comics and from the Injustice games, like Lex Luthor's suit. If you had Lex Luthor in his suit where he can actually fight Superman one-on-one, and you bring in Brainiac, and maybe you have Supergirl with Superman and they're actually teamed up, you know, I think you could make $1 billion. And like, get rid of those lanterns. That like side team. There was that team in Superman. There was like that lantern and that cyborg type character. Get rid of them. Too much. James Gunn has a habit of making every movie Guardians of the Galaxy. That's the thing. That was the main problem with his Superman, is that it was just Guardians. He was just doing Guardians. There was way too much going on, way too much characters. It's a fucking Superman movie. The focus needs to be on Superman, and it was just all over the place. There was just too much going on, too many characters. So get rid of that like side team that he introduced. Get rid of them. Nobody cares about them. Have it be Superman. Maybe he teams up with Supergirl. I mean, if he teams up with Batman, so they do a proper Brave and the Bold type storyline. If he teams up with Supergirl, maybe he teams up with Batman as well, and they're going against like a Brainiac or a Lex Luthor in his Injustice suit. Maybe Superman teams up with Martian Manhunter, because they go quite well together. Those two characters fit quite nicely together. Maybe he teams up with a Martian Manhunter, or he teams up with a Shazam, something like that. And then there's this big threat like a Brainiac. If they do something like that, and they can actually pull it off, they can actually execute it properly, I think you could make $1 billion with Superman. I think that is a $1 billion Superman movie.